of PDS, Performance Development Strategies, and we are the premier people development organization. Thanks for coming and learning a little bit more about how we create success in organizations. And I'm going to take some time right now to show you what makes us unique and how working with us will drive results in your organization. Okay, now let's start with a formula that I would like everybody to take a look at. And this is the formula we use that makes us unique and helps us get to the results that we are looking for. And if you go all the way over to the end of the formula, you see the word I, the letters IR. IR means improved results, both personally and for the organization. Now, go back to the left right before the arrow and you'll see PBC. Well, in order to have those type of improved results, wouldn't you agree that we would need to have a positive behavior change? And how do we get a positive behavior change? How do we get a change that really is focused in the right direction? Well, we do that by setting goals. And by setting goals, we will be able to get the positive behavior change that we want. But sometimes that always doesn't work. And here's the reason why it doesn't, and this is what makes us unique. Go to the very left-hand side of that formula, and you will see A, and then in brackets, SK. The SK is your skills and your knowledge, which you already have. So with your skills and knowledge, why aren't your people able to get the results that are needed? A lot of that has to do with the multiplier next to that set of brackets. That is the A. The A, ladies and gentlemen, that stands for our attitudes. Now, what exactly would our attitudes be all about? Attitudes, as I'm going to define it, have to do with habits of thought. And habits of thought are the way we approach things. It could be our small-minded thinking. It could be our belief that nothing's going to happen if we do it. But these are the things that are built up in our mind, and they're our subconscious, and they really control the conscious part of our mind. The role of attitude in this circle, as you can see, is the largest portion of what gets done and what doesn't get done. And really, how many times have you seen people in your organization who had the right skills, they had the right resume, everything was fine, but for some reason, they didn't make it. They either left or you had to get rid of them. A lot of it had to do with the attitudes and the behaviors, didn't it? So the skills is how to do it. You always look for that. The knowledge is what to do, but the attitude is really the multiplier. So attitudes affect our behaviors, which is the B, and in turn, that will drive our results. And that's what we're talking about here with regard to our secret formula, the way we put it together and the way we get results. So where do our attitudes come from? Well, if you read a lot of people, you'll find out that most people will say that 95% of our attitudes were developed by age 5. Okay, think about that. What are the first 3 words that a child learns? Take a second. This is what I have found most people have said, these 3 words right here. Mommy, that's the first word, usually daddy, and then what happens after that? No. So we start off with our conditioning with mommy, daddy, and no. So already attitudes are being formed right there. Now here's the problem. We have a lot of negative conditioning that is built into our thoughts. So how many of you can finish these words up here? Don't bite off more than you can chew. Children should be seen and not heard. Don't go where you're not invited. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. Don't talk to strangers, right? We know all about that, and we know that they're probably for very good reasons, but the problem is when we become adults, a lot of those things don't apply any longer. Here's the issue that we have. Most of our negative conditioning occupies 77% of our thoughts right now, and only about 23% are the positive, the green area. What we're doing is we can't erase the negative conditioning. So what are we going to do? We're going to build a bigger box. Wouldn't you agree that more people tend to think about what's going to go wrong and how things are going to fail? Think about that when you came up with an idea. What was the first reaction? I'll bet it was, well, rather than thinking, wow, that's a great idea, this is going to go right and you're going to succeed. Why? Early negative conditioning. But if we have positive attitudes, we'll get positive results. How do we change our attitudes? We have to recognize that an attitude is just that. It's a habit of our thought. We also have to realize that we're getting used to and we get some type of satisfaction from that habit. Whatever we're doing, whatever habit we have, I mean, it could be, for instance, smoking or doing something that is harmful for us. That's a habit, that is a harmful attitude, and we are basically getting a certain satisfaction from doing that. So we have to realize that there's a type of satisfaction, and how are we going to change that? Well, we have to replace it with a new one. And the way we replace it with a new one is we come up with a new level of satisfaction for the new attitude that we want to develop. So with learning and change, we talked about the fact that the attitudes really affect our skills and knowledge. But how do we actually learn? Well, how many of you gone to a great speech? And by the way, you may even have that. Some consultants may give you a great presentation and you say, wow, that was wonderful. That's only about 2% of how we learn, is one of those type of things. Then there's another way we learn. Somebody scares us. It's an impact. They say, if you don't stop smoking, you're going to get cancer. Or if you don't stop eating, you're going to have a heart attack or a stroke. 2 and 2, that's 4% of how we actually learn and change. That leaves us with 96%. And that 96% is represented by some of these questions right here. So I want you to think about these. How much is 4 times 5? 20, right? How much is 6 times 7? 42, right? And how much is 3 times 10? That's 30, correct? And then finally, how much is 13 times 19? Now, you can't think of that one right away, can you? Well, how long ago did you learn your multiplication tables and you learned them up to 12? So, even though you learned it a long time ago, you're able to rattle off those answers right away, aren't you? That is because of the way you learned. You learned by a process called spaced repetition. How does spaced repetition work, and why is that unique in what we do? Well, let's talk about the impact or the inspirational speeches that you receive. You're hearing it one time. You hear it today. 2 days from now, or 1 day from now, actually, you'll only have remembered half of it. 2 days from now, you only will have remembered 25%. And half a month from now, less than 2%. So really, why spend a lot of time and money on giving fantastic speeches and expecting change to occur? On the other hand, spaced repetition. You hear something 6 times and you will retain up to 62%. And it's even better than that. you'll retain 62%, and it will be 15 years to life. Remember those multiplication tables. And let's remember some other things just to prove a point. Once again, one exposure to an idea, only 2% after 16 days. 5 to 6 exposures after 6 days will result in retaining 62%, 15 years to life. Here's the power. Here's some other information on the power of spaced repetition. How many of these can you repeat or complete? Just do it. We know that that's Nike, right? Oh, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer Wiener, right? For those of you who remember that commercial. You deserve a break today. We know that's McDonald's, right? Oh, say, can you see? You know what comes after that? 7 years ago, you know that, and what comes after that? And what is the chemical symbol of water? We know that's H2O. We know all of that because of spaced repetition. So advertisers are smart enough to know that the only way to get us to internalize their product is to consistently, by spaced repetition, show it to us. So our goal achievement process, again, this is how you get the results, is your attitudes multiplied by your skills and knowledge. We teach you to write a SMART goal, which is specific, measurable, actionable, reasonably high, and time-bound. We help you determine the rewards and the consequences of that goal. You identify obstacles. You find possible solutions. You establish action steps. And you create target dates. And we're going to stop right there, but that tells you a little bit about how we use our formula to help you receive results. So if you have not been receiving the results you're looking for before and you've been paying for it, give us a call and we will be glad to give you a complimentary consultation. Whether it's an individual or whether it's a company, you will definitely like working with us. Grant Schneider Performance Development Strategies, building tomorrow's leaders today. I want to thank you very much for listening to us.